Hi, I'm Cherie Soria from Living Light, and today I'm going to share with you one of my favorite recipes from Raw Food for Dummies. It's creamy red bell pepper chipotle soup with cashew sour cream. That's a mouthful, and you're going to really love this soup when it's in your mouth because it has big, bold flavors. Here's what you're going to need to make it. Of course, you're going to need a blender. Can't get around that. You've got to have a blender. You're also going to want 1 cup of cashews that have been soaked for at least a couple of hours just to soften them up. You'll also need 2 cups of red bell peppers that have been peeled. You'll want to have some smoked chipotle pepper. I like to use the powdered chipotle pepper, in which case you would need about 1/2 teaspoon. Otherwise, 1 whole soaked chipotle pepper, which has been seeded, and I would say soak it for about an hour or so. Then you're going to need some water, probably 2 to 4 cups altogether. Plus, you'll need, of course, some salt. I recommend 2 teaspoons of Himalayan crystal salt, a teaspoon of lemon juice. You'll also need a teaspoon of nutritional yeast. Make sure that you get vegetarian support formula nutritional yeast so you get your B12 vitamins. Also a teaspoon of paprika, and that would be sweet paprika, as well as a 1/4 teaspoon of smoked paprika to give your soup a nice roasted bell pepper taste. 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder and a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, and 1/8 teaspoon of white pepper. Finally, you're going to need 1 cup of chopped peeled tomatoes and 1/2 cup of cashew yogurt. And I'll talk about how to make that cashew yogurt. So let's get started with the water in the blender to make our cashew cream. That's the first thing that you want to do when you're making a cream soup, is to make the cream. So I'm going to add about 2 cups of water to my blender, and then I'll add my soaked cashews. And we don't need to do anything more than that to begin with. Just make it into a cream. And we're going to start it on low, and as it gets thicker, then we'll turn it up. Okay? All right, there we go. Now we have a nice smooth cream, and we're going to add our red bell peppers. Now, I want to talk as we go about the flavors, how we're going to build the flavor profile on this so everything is well balanced, and yet it has that party in the mouth kind of explosion that we're looking for. So, first of all, understand what each ingredient represents in terms of flavor. Cashews are sweet. So are red bell peppers. And by the way, it was really important that we peeled the red bell peppers before we chopped them. The reason is that if we blend the red bell peppers with the skins on, we're going to get little bits of skin stuck in our mouth, and we don't want that. We want a nice, smooth, creamy mouthfeel. So we've got the bell peppers and the cashews, which are both sweet, and now we're going to add some more sweet flavors. We have paprika, which is just dehydrated bell pepper, so it's also sweet. We have some white miso, and this is chickpea miso. It's both sweet and salty. And we have nutritional yeast, and that's also a sweet flavor. So now we have a lot of sweet flavors in here. We're going to move away from the sweet flavors and start adding some other components. Here we have a little bit of lemon juice. I don't want too much acidity yet because we're going to add some tomatoes later, and they're acidic as well. And now we'll add a salty component. So now we have sweet, sour, and salty. That's 3 of the flavors that we're looking for. And next we're going to add a bitter component. This is a smoked paprika, and even though paprika on its own would be sweet, the smoked paprika is bitter because anything that's smoked has a bitter quality. So now we have sweet, sour, salty, and bitter, and we're going to start to add our pungent or dramatic flavors. Here we have a onion powder. And onion powder, we're using onion powder instead of fresh onions because we want it to have a cooked taste. We want it to permeate as if it had been cooking. Raw onions would make it too sharp. And same thing with garlic. Here's our garlic powdered garlic. That's another dramatic flavor that will add a cooked element to our flavor profile. And here is the secret ingredient that I really love. It's not so secret because it's in the title, chipotle powder. So this is our chipotle powder. We're adding another both bitter and pungent ingredient. And yet another bitter and pungent ingredient would be white pepper. And white pepper, again, rather than black pepper, will permeate the entire mixture and really give it a wonderful complexity that we're looking for, that you would only expect really in a cooked soup. So now we're going to blend the mixture. We don't have to blend it too much because we already made our cream and our peppers are peeled. So it's not going to take a lot of blending to make it smooth. All right, that looks nice and smooth and creamy. And now I'm going to just taste it. I wouldn't serve you anything I hadn't tasted first. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That is so good. And really, I think I like the texture of this right now, the consistency. I could make it a little bit thinner if I wanted to, but those were very juicy tomatoes, so I'm not going to add any more water at all. One of the things, though, that I do want to add, and this is completely optional, is a little bit of cashew yogurt. And cashew yogurt is so easy to make. All you have to do is blend your soaked cashews with water, as little water as possible, and then add a little bit of probiotic powder to it. You can find these recipes in my book, Raw Food for Dummies. I have recipes for all different kinds of cheeses and yogurts. Typically, if you use a cup of nuts, you'll use 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon of probiotic powder and a cup of water. You blend it until it's smooth, then you put it in a jar and just let it sit at room temperature for anywhere from 8 to 12 hours, depending on how sour you want it. And that's what it looks like. If it needs to be a little bit thinner, you just add a little bit more water to it. So let's just see how thick and wonderful and luscious and delicious this soup is. Here we go. This is a pretty rich soup, so I wouldn't serve more than about 8 ounces to the public, to my guests. And here's my yogurt. And there we have it. Oh my goodness. Let's see, I know I have a spoon. Here we go. I've got to try it. That is definitely a party happening in my mouth. That is so good. I know you're going to love it. Definitely make this recipe for your friends and family. They will think you are a master chef. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'm Cherie Soria, and if you would like some more tips and tricks in the kitchen, go to rawfoodchef.com or go to my Raw Food for Dummies Facebook page, and you'll find videos and recipes in both of those locations. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Cherie Soria from Light Culinary Institute, helping you make healthy living easy and delicious.